Hello, my sweet summer children. The highly anticipated Witcher series has arrived to Netflix, and in this video, I'm going to do an in-depth breakdown of The Witcher Season 1 timeline and plots, the books that were adapted or the stories that were adapted, as well as answer your questions that you left on my initial review of this series. The first thing I want to clear up is the age of characters and how aging works in the Witcher universe. In the books, Geralt is about 85 years old. In the games, he's in his 90s. Geralt is not human. He was a human, but he is now a Witcher. Becoming a Witcher is a grueling process that your body goes through. You go through trials, you drink potions and chemicals. They have mutations done to their bone marrow, their nervous system, their hormones, and their eyes. While these potions and mutations grant them these special abilities, these potions and mutations also render them infertile. In Geralt's case, he went through his trials so smoothly that he underwent additional trials of which he was the sole survivor, and these extra trials resulted in the loss of pigment in his hair. That's why Geralt is the white-haired Witcher. So the lifespan of a Witcher, or the lifespan of Geralt, is not the same expectancy of a human. Humans have a pretty normal lifespan in the Witcher universe. Nowhere in the books does it say, like, here lies a Witcher that died of old age. So we know that Witchers can be killed, but we do not know how the aging works exactly with Witchers. Yennefer is also old, a lot older than she looks. She's older than Geralt as well, but Yennefer is almost 100 years old. However, mages can take potions to preserve their looks, and they can also take an elixir that stops the aging process. It doesn't make them immortal. They can still die, but they don't age. And with Yennefer in episode 3, we kind of see what she went through to look like that. And we know with Yennefer, it caused her to be infertile as well. Sorella, Ciri, is 15. In episode 1, Ciri says that she is the age her grandmother was when she won her first battle. Queen Calanthe was 15 when she won her first battle. And like races like elves, they live a long time. I think there's like one elf that's like 500 years old. Now that that's cleared up, let's move on to the timeline. I was also asked about the symbols that are shown before every episode and what's their meaning. So there are tons of hints at what's going on, and I'll talk about them as we go. They basically have to do with the timeline as well. So in episode 1, we see the first symbol, which is a sun that's beginning to turn black, which seems to me to allude to an eclipse, the curse of the black sun, which is very prominent in the plot line in episode 1, the ends beginning. Geralt is in Blaviken. He's killed the Kikimora, and let's get visual with the timeline a little bit. In Geralt's timeline, Ciri is not born yet. Renfri talks about Queen Calanthe winning her first battle. So at the time in Geralt's timeline, Queen Calanthe is only 15 years old. Geralt talks about the curse of the Black Sun with Stregobor and later with Renfri. And if you pay attention, you will catch that every episode has a general theme. And in every episode, the scenes are paddling back and forth, even though some are in the past and some are in the future. Renfri does the callback to what Ciri said about Queen Calanthe's first battle, and Mousesack does a callback to the curse of the Black Sun while Ciri is awaiting her grandmother's return. He says the girls were locked in the towers and systematically killed. The end. He's talking to Ciri about the curse of the Black Sun. And he's doing this while Geralt is dealing with one of those girls in his own timeline. So while they are on different timelines, they aren't random stories that are just thrown in. They are there for a reason, and both stories are bouncing off of each other. And I think that's a great tool to use when you're telling two storylines at once that are so far apart. The reason I believe the showrunners did this is because Cirilla is a main character, arguably the most important character. She needs to be included from the very beginning, but you also have to include some of these short stories from The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny because they give context to the actual novels and what's going on now. So The Lesser Evil is one of my favorite short stories that was adapted in episode 1. Episode 1 was The Lesser Evil and Some Blood of the Elves. In series timeline, Cintra falls and Geralt's in Cintra, but we don't find that out until much later. And the amount of time that passes in series timeline has confused a lot of people, but it's about the span of 1 week. Series timeline is about the span of 1 week. And I will get into the proof of that when we reach that episode. So in episode 2, for Marks, the emblem is the obsidian star and there are eels surrounding it. The obsidian star is a pendant that Yennefer wears and the eels are the conduits of Artanuza. But in the episode, Yennefer is sold by her father for 4 marks to Tisea of Artanuza. Artanuza is a girls' school of magic. Think of it as like Hogwarts from Harry Potter. So Ciri is off in the woods with Rat Boy or Dara, and she thinks that she's saved when she sees Cintran flags. And Geralt is just looking for work. So Geralt teams up with Jasker, and I just want to say I really like him. I think he's funny. But really, why did they name him Jasker? Why can't he just be Dandelion or Dandelion? I don't know. The short story being adapted in this storyline is The Edge of the World from The Last Wish. But the overarching theme is a huge look into the elven storyline, the elves of Witcher and the Great Cleansing. The elves built Artanuza before humans. In Yennefer's storyline, Yennefer is learning about this, learning about the elves teaching the humans to turn chaos into magic. The skulls and bones in Artanuza are all from the elves. Yennefer actually says that her real father was an elf, and they speak about the Great Cleansing. On Geralt's timeline, Geralt meets with Falandrel, king of the elves, and he's clearly still pissed about the Great Cleansing. I mean, he has every right to be. Ciri's storyline, she's in the camp, and it's way in the future, but the guy with the elven ear necklace and all the talk of war with elves is very present in her storyline as well. So I got some question about elves, so I'll answer that now. The elves were the first inhabitant of the Witcher universe. If not the first, they were at least there before humans. This is a very popular fantasy trope that you see in many fantasy series: Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, etc. This is just a popular fantasy trope. This is just what it is. But the elven people taught humans how to use magic, and then the humans slaughtered them, aka the Great Cleansing. So while Yennefer's storyline is even farther in the past than Geralt's, and Ciri's is in the future, they are all hinting at the same general idea. The elves were slaughtered and are treated horribly by humans. Elder blood has power. Yennefer is able to eat that flower and form a portal on the first try because she has elder blood. Cirilla as well has elder blood, and there's this prophecy that a child with elder blood will save the elves from annihilation. But let's follow the timeline into episode 3. So episode 3, Betrayer Moon, the symbol at the beginning looks like a Striga handprint, which is self-explanatory when it comes to the episode. The short story being adapted is The Witcher. So there's this political theme going on in all timelines in this episode. Geralt is in Temeria with Triss Merigold hunting the Striga. Triss is the mage of King Foltest. The Striga is the child that King Foltest had with his sister Ada that was cursed. Yennefer is much farther in the past. So at the ball that Yennefer attends, King Foltest and Ada are children, the same children from this photo in the castle that Geralt is hunting the Striga in. It's a paddle back and forth. While Yennefer and Geralt are in different places in time, there are clues to the Striga and the political themes in both timelines. So at Artanuza, the Brotherhood basically sends a mage to every kingdom. They are to act as like the king's hand, if you will. Yennefer wants to go to Aden because that is her home. That is where Vengerberg is. Vengerberg is actually the capital of Aden, but due to the efforts of the Brotherhood to get back in good with Cintra, they vote that sending a mage with elven blood to Aden would be detrimental to those efforts. So you may notice that in Ciri's storyline that Cintra has no mage. They have Mousak, and Mousak isn't exactly a mage. He is a druid. But anyway, the Brotherhood, they instead vote to send Yennefer to Nilfgaard. But Yennefer is like, fuck this. She undergoes a huge, painful transformation, and she goes up into the ball at Artanusa and dances with the king of Aden, pretty much declaring that she is not listening to the Brotherhood and fuck what they want. She is taking destiny in her own hands. This is the act that gets Fringilla sent to Nilfgaard, because Fringilla was supposed to go to Aden, because Yen has taken her place with the king of Aden to be his mage. He wanted a mage from his country anyway, so it was just like he was going to choose Yennefer. In Geralt's timeline, the politics are surrounding overthrowing King Foltest, and in the future, we have Ciri, who is walking into the literal whispering woods as the trees whisper to her into the forest. Rat Boy is trying to stop her because arrows and bodies litter the field because it looks like they have just stepped on elven land, or dryad, the woodland nymphs. In episode 4, which is one of the more important episodes of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials, it starts with an emblem of a tree. But if you look closely, it looks to be a sword of destiny. In the tree of the Bloviken forest. And it's very fitting because the episode is totally themed around destiny and fate. It's based on the short story from The Last Wish, A Question of Price. Ciri's timeline is in the future. She has ended up with the Dryads and Broccolon Forest. Geralt is with Jaskier and he's just killed a Selkamore, but his bathtub conversation is so important. He says he wants no one, and he wants no one needing him. And Jaskier is asking him, like, bruh, so just monster hunting then? I'm like, is that what this is all about? Which is kind of the same thing that Triss asked him in the last episode. So he ends up at a banquet saving Dunny's life by the ancient law of surprise. Dunny claimed Pavetta's hand in marriage, and Queen Calanthe wasn't having it. But it ended up anyway with Dunny and Pavetta being married, and Pavetta was already pregnant. Dunny and Pavetta were fated together by destiny, and Geralt claimed their child as payment. Geralt enacted his own law of surprise. He accidentally gets a child because no one knew that Pavetta was pregnant. Pavetta and Dunny are Ciri's parents, and this act by Geralt binds Ciri's destiny to his, and no one can undo it. The conversation around Dunny and Pavetta, between them, Queen Calanthe, Mousak, and all of them, is all about destiny. Geralt does not believe in destiny. Queen Calanthe tries to intervene with destiny, and this causes Pavetta to show some real power that she had never had before. In Yennefer's timeline, it's 3 decades past the ball where she was chosen to be the mage at Aden. She is feeling unfulfilled with her life. She tries to save the baby girl, the little princess, from the assassin, but can't. So the assassin was sent to kill the mom and the baby because the king wanted a male heir and the mom hadn't produced. Instead, she had a daughter, and that's like some King Henry VIII shit right there. But this highlights her motherly destiny and her motherly instincts. She couldn't save this baby, but she will get a second chance to save a child with Ciri. And in Ciri's timelines, the Dryads are beginning to realize there is more to Ciri than they can see. This is the halfway point, so I think it's important to note that Ciri, while Geralt and Yennefer's timelines are literally jumping years and multiple decades around, Ciri's timeline is very straightforward. Ciri's timeline is linear. In episode 5, Bottled Appetites, we get an intro to a Doppler, and I got a question question about the Doppler. A Doppler is a shapeshifter, and the shapeshifter is going to take the shape of the now dead Mousak to take Ciri. But in episode 5, Yennefer and Geralt are on the same timeline. The emblem at the beginning is basically the dancing, I guess you would call it, that Yennefer had the people doing at the party, if you call that dancing. But it also symbolizes Geralt and Yennefer, the merging of not only destiny, but their timelines. Yennefer and Geralt's timeline. This episode is the adaptation of the short story The Last Wish. So Yennefer and Geralt are now on the same timeline, and they are both in Rin. It is believed that because the Jinn couldn't kill Geralt because Geralt was the Jinn's master, that Geralt pulled a fast one on the Jinn and bound Yennefer's fate to his own to be able to save them both. So that is actually what his last wish was, but nowhere is that confirmed. Anyway, in Ciri's timeline, she is still with the Dryads, but the general is not feeling her one bit, but the queen is, and the queen has the last say. The queen knows that Ciri is special. Ciri actually leaves them and goes with the fake Mousak, or the Doppler Mousak. So in episode 6, Rare Spices, Geralt and Yennefer are still on the same timeline. The emblem is the dragon, and that needs no explanation when it comes to the episode. It's the dragon because there's a dragon in this episode. This is the adaptation of the short story Bounds of Reason. Geralt meets Borch, Taya, and Vea and join their hunting team. There are 3 other teams: Yennefer's team, who wants to use the dragon heart to bear a child, and the Reavers, and then the Dwarves. The overall theme of this episode, to me, is family and legacy. Geralt and Yennefer are both shown what they're missing. It should be like mirror theme episode, because the golden dragon and the green dragon are willing to die to protect their baby, which is similar to the relationship that Geralt and Yen will have with Ciri. Ciri and Dara realize the fake Mousak and they fight him, and Ciri escapes, but she is caught by Cahair's creepy ass. The Doppler shows up and takes Ciri after Cahair and the Doppler fight. So the Doppler ties Ciri to a tree and escapes, but Dara manages to save Ciri, and Dara basically abandons her. He tells Ciri to find a new family, which is exactly what she's gonna do. Geralt and Yen save the baby egg dragon, and Borch breaks it down for them. You won't regain your womb, and you will lose her. And he kind of dry snitches on Geralt's last wish, so Yen questions if any of their feelings are real, and she's actually pretty pissed, and they part ways. Borch initially told Geralt he wanted to show him what he was missing on this hunt, and Geralt basically thinks it's Yen, and a part of it is, but Borch says what you're missing is still out there. And to me, that is family, legacy, destiny, and life, not just monster hunting and coin, finding something that means much more. So in episode 7, Before the Fall, I'm not sure how much time has went past between episodes 6 and 7, but I do feel like it was the conversation between Yennefer, Geralt, and Borch, and the argument and the blow up between Geralt and Yennefer that caused Geralt to want to seek out Ciri. In episode 7, Before the Fall, the emblem is the broken lion, the lion of Cintra broken because Cintra will fall. We are starting to merge timelines, but not quite. So Yennefer and Geralt, to me, are still on the same timeline. Geralt sees Nilfgaard marching on the Amel Pass. We know in episode 6, when they were sitting around the campfire, the dwarves were talking about Nilfgaard starting to take over. And he hinted at the possibility of Cintra falling. So Geralt sees Nilfgaard marching on the Amel Pass. So that prompts him to go to Cintra to see if his child of surprise is safe. So he meets with Mousak and eventually a very, very reluctant and disgusted Queen Calanthe. It's basically the morning of Ciri's timeline in episode 1. So we are starting to loop back. So Calanthe doesn't like Geralt. She doesn't want him to take Ciri. Queen Calanthe tries to give him a fake Ciri, but he realizes this when he sees the real Ciri playing with her friends. So Calanthe and her husband end up trapping Geralt. So Geralt is there when Cintra falls. By trapping Geralt, they are trying to intervene with destiny, and intervening with destiny has never ended well. At this time, Yennefer is in Nazir talking to Iz, who seems to be shattered by her leaving him and shutting him out of her life. I think he has some true disdain for her now, but it is in Nazir that Yennefer meets Vilgefortz, and he gets Yennefer to go to Artanuza. Nilfgaard has not taken Cintra at this time. The army is near Cintra, but they haven't taken it yet. So while Yen is in Artanuza, she becomes a walking woke tweet on Twitter. I'm just kidding. But really, she's kicking true knowledge to some young girls about the way of things in Artanuza and life in general. So they had this emergency meeting of the conclave. All the mages are there because Nilfgaard is about to attack Cintra. And Artanuza has been this place that keeps the order and the peace, and they don't really want this shit going down. They talk it out, and the Brotherhood votes to leave Cintra to defend themselves because they never wanted their help before. But some of the mages are like, fuck it, we're going to save the other kingdoms. So Nilfgaard attacks Cintra, and we are back at episode 1, but from Geralt's point of view instead of Ciri's. In Ciri's timeline, she is in a village, and she took a horse from a woman that wanted to save her, and then she was attacked by Cintrans that knew her, and she had like this screaming spell that invokes some true power, and she spits out a prophecy. An elven prophecy, and that's all I'm gonna say. Those powers that she used killed those people, killed the horse too, but I'm not gonna speak more about the prophecy because that's spoiler. I'm not really trying to do no spoilers in this video. And in episode 8 is the big payoff. Episode 8, much more. We see all the emblems from the future seasons merging together to create the 3 things that represent Ciri, Yennefer, and Geralt together and on one timeline. The wolf, the obsidian star, and the sparrow. These previous episodes showed us everything that it took to get to this place and for these 3 to be at this point in time. And in episode 8, they are all on one timeline. Both Geralt and Yennefer's storylines are adaptations of something more, but it's expanded on, of course. And for those that asked, Geralt did indeed see his mother, and Vicenna is his mother. But anyway, Geralt vows to protect Ciri, and then we see him on Rouge. So Geralt ends up at the camp of Cintran refugees that were slaughtered when Ciri was saved by Rat Boy in episode 2. Ciri did manage to escape, but all of these people died. So he encounters a man trying to bury the dead. The man says the people have been dead about a week. So I think we are only a week into Ciri's timeline. Like, all of these events that have been going on with Ciri have been over the span of 1 week. So we really aren't far at all into the first book in the saga, which is Blood of the Elves. So at this camp, refugee camp, Geralt has the fight of his life against some monsters and is bested. He nearly dies. The mages prepare for the Battle of Sodden. And as I said previously in the previous video, Geralt seeing the mist or the fog and Ciri seeing the fireballs, both from the Battle of Sodden, show us that they are all on one timeline. And at the end, Geralt and Ciri meet in the woods, which is what Renfri said would happen in the first episode. And the next season, likely episode 1, they will be looking for Yennefer. So that explains the perfect loop of the timeline and how the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning. That's the timeline in depth of season 1. So this video is long as hell. So I'm going to answer the other questions in individual videos that I have coming up, and I will also resume the dissection of the Witcher books. And up next is a question of price. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone that supports me on Patreon. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please click that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and join the Sweet Summer family. Okay, my sweet summer children, have a good day.